happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. Five score years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. This nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Welcome. I am Kemi Oshukoya. It's been said that if your dreams don't scare you, they aren't big enough. On August 28, 1963, civil rights leader and icon, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., stood in front of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., and delivered the famous I Have a Dream speech to thousands of women and men who have gathered at the National Mall that day for a march on Washington to petition Congress for freedom and jobs. Just as it did that day, that speech still echoes today, inspiring millions of people around the world, including one named Barack Hussein Obama, who 45 years later, after that speech was delivered, made one of Dr. King's dreams a reality when he was elected and sworn in as the 44th President of the United States of America, becoming the first African American to hold that title and office.
Are you prepared to take the oath, Senator?
I am.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear
that I will execute the office of President to the United States faithfully.
that I will execute
the office of President of the United States.
President of the United States faithfully.
And will, to the best of my ability,
preserve,
protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President. All the best wishes, Mr.
these United States, Barack Obama.
Thank you. Thank you.
I stand here as the President of the United States and the son of an African. Michelle and I have always tried to instill in our girls, our daughters, a sense of their heritage, which is American and African and European, with all the strengths and all the struggles of that heritage. I mean, when you think about me being President of the United States, it was quite unlikely.
The same can be said for the Obama's presidential portraits that were unveiled in 2018 at the Smithsonian National Portrait Gallery in Washington, D.C. They are unlike anything one has ever seen in the history of American presidential portrait. From Barack Obama commanding presence and Michelle's regal attire to their inviting and magnetic gaze directed her viewers, there's something almost indescribable in words in those gazes that pull each viewer closer and closer into the most intimate and warmest embrace that exudes love and hope for humanity. Contemporary artists Kehinde, Wiley, and Sherald have not only captured the essence of the former president and the former first lady in portraiture. Together, they have created a dynamic shift in what to expect and what a contemporary American presidential portraiture can be. And in the process, asking and daring viewers to think and dream beyond their own set of limitations by stepping outside of the box. So talk to me about what you're seeing over here. You guys are the second museum on tour for the Obama portrait. So talk to me about the significance of having it at the Brooklyn Museum.
So we're very excited to have these at the museum. We're the only stop on the Northeast. You know, this is a touring exhibition that's going to 5 stops, so we have the only stop in the Northeast. And many people did not have a chance to go to DC to see the portraits after their unveiling. So we're happy to offer them the opportunity to see them here. We also had a long-standing relationship with the artist Kehinde Wiley, who's based in Brooklyn. So it's an opportunity again for us to support his practice and to support the artistic talent in Brooklyn.
Is this your first time of seeing this? Or?
No, I saw these in DC. The wonderful thing about seeing them here is they're side by side. When you see them in DC, they're in different galleries.
So, talk to me. I mean, I was talking to your co-curator earlier on, and this is completely a shift away from the usual portraits of presidential portrait. So talk to me about, as a curator, talk to us like what you're seeing here.
Well, one of the ways these two works differ from other presidential portraits is that they were painted by very well-known living artists who have a reputation in the art world. And they brought their extraordinary artistic vision to these portraits. So as works of art, they're very significant contemporary works of art, and you can see the artist's artistic vision reflected in these paintings. So if you're familiar with the work of Kehinde Wiley, you know that he often includes floral backgrounds as part of his work of art. And Amy Sherald often silhouettes her subjects against a flat field of color. So they're both state portraits. They're very dignified. They really celebrate and commemorate this cultural event, but they're also important works of contemporary art. And in that way, that they differ from state portraiture in general. However, they do recognize the present moment and convey the importance of the office of the presidency and the importance of the First Lady in the present and in the future. This is what people in the future will be looking at. They're very consciously public-facing portraits, knowing that they are crafting an image of the presidency and of the First Lady for future generations.
Let's walk over to Miss Obama portrait. So much has been talked about that. And just, can you talk about it to us? What are we looking at? The composition, can you talk about that?
So both of these portraits were painted from photographs. The artists work with photographs of their subjects as well as in-person sittings. So this is the composition here, she appears very much like a pyramid, almost like a piece of sculpture. The dress is the base, a very stable base, and then her head is at the peak. She has such an elegant, one of the things I admire about this is her very elegant pose and also her fingernails, the color of her nails, which really complement the blue and the pattern on her dress. And we know what a stylish First Lady she was, and also what an intelligent First Lady she was. And I think that Amy Sherald captures both those aspects very effectively. You can also see her gaze. Amy Sherald often has her subject looking directly at the viewer. They seem to be making eye contact with the viewer, but also looking beyond, almost as though she's looking into the future. So there's something both very present about her, but also almost futuristic. It's an image that conveys the present, but speaks also to the future.
Of the future. What do you hope that your audience, your visitor, what do you hope that when they come to, we know that Brooklyn has, in the past couple of years, has become more inclusive, more gentrified, but it's still known predominantly as a minority neighborhood. So this will be an opportunity for the young.
Yes, we think representation is extremely important. It's important to see yourself reflected in the galleries as both a subject, but also as a producer of culture. And so we hope that young people who come to visit will see that these are opportunities for them. These are also just extraordinary works of contemporary art. And it's so exciting to see that something that is usually very staid and not very exciting.
Very stoic.
Kind of stoic, and in the hands of talented contemporary artists, these two paintings are just so visually exciting and extraordinary works of art.
And they are both of them are very accessible.
They're accessible, but I think the accessibility is deceptive, and that's what I think makes them great works of art. So Obama, it looks like a man of the people, sitting very low to the ground and speaking as though he would speak to us. On the other hand, his pose and the way he looks out at us, there is something very regal about him still, even in that pose. Same with Michelle. yes, you feel like, oh, she looks like someone I might know, but it's very clear that she's also has a gravitas that is associated with powerful individuals. So it does two things, and I love that.
One of the things we've done to complement our presentation of the Obama portrait is to provide a tour around our galleries on every floor of the museum that explores representations of power, legacy, and American identity. And so we hope that this creates a dialogue about how to read these wonderful portraits of power. We've really highlighted one work in particular, the historic portrait by Gilbert Stewart of George Washington. And it resides on the 5th floor, but we have a reproduction of it, and we've presented a didactic so you can read all of the symbols that speak to Washington's legacy and presidency, and how artists like Gilbert Stewart could construct a portrait that would be so enduring, but that the public could read as something that was quite powerful in their lives. The Brooklyn Museum has a long history of collecting presidential portraits. We have over 100 within our collection. And the portrait of Gilbert Stewart, which currently hangs on the 5th floor, was given to the museum in the 1940s. It's one of 3 versions of this iconic portrait. The other 2 reside in Washington, D.C. at the National Portrait Gallery and at the White House. And it gave us an opportunity to feature the Obama portraits to show how Kehinde Wiley and Amy Sherald really created a dramatic shift in the presentation of presidential portraits. And unlike our Washington, which is in many ways highly prized and beloved, Barack Obama and Michelle Obama's portraits are much more accessible and immediate portraits. They're more accessible to the public, and that's the way they wanted to that's the legacy of their presidency.
So let me start by saying, on behalf of the American people, welcome to the United States. I stand here as the President of the United States and the son of an African. Michelle and I have always tried to instill in our girls, our daughters, a sense of their heritage, which is American and African and European, with all the strengths and all the struggles of that heritage. We took them to Africa. We wanted to open their eyes to the amazing tapestry of history and culture and music.
Coming as a young enthusiast to the White House, and after 8 years, it's interesting from where you came from and now. What advice do you have for young Africans who aspire to run for office, and what do you think they can do to make a difference when they get close to office? That's one.
You know, people here in the States, we have the White House interns program, and I often talk to young people after they complete their internship at the White House. And they ask me a similar question, what advice would I give for people who are interested in public service and politics? And obviously, each country is different. Some countries are more challenging because democratic policies are still not so deeply entrenched. Oftentimes, there's not as much turnover in government because people, once they get in, they don't want to leave. In part, by the way, that also has to do with the lack of opportunity in the private sector. One of the reasons why you want to have a country that has a good, strong government, but also a private sector, is if you don't have a good, strong private sector, then the temptation for people to stay in power in government, because that's the only way to make a living or to succeed, that becomes a strong temptation, and that then leads to the temptation to corruption or to suppress opposition or to not have honest elections because you're hanging on, because if you lose, you've got nothing, right? And one of the good things about the United States is that, look, you run for office, if you lose, there's other ways of making a living. It's not a tragedy. And it's interesting. I mean, there were times where, during my political career, there were times where I thought, you know what, this isn't going all that well. And I remember when I ran for the United States Senate, I had already lost a race to be in Congress. I had been in the state Senate for 8 years. It was putting enormous strains on my family because I was traveling a lot. And I thought to myself, you know what, this is it. If I don't win this U.S. Senate race, I'm getting out of politics. I'm going to go do something else. And I was comfortable with that view. It also meant that once I became president, and people have talked about, for example, in my first term when I was trying to get the health care law passed, and the politics of it were not going well, and people were very angry and oftentimes misinformed about what it would do. I decided, look, even if this means that I don't get a second term, I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. And part of the reason was because I said, if I lose, I'll be upset. It'll be a little embarrassing. But I'll be okay. And there's no point in me being in office if I can't actually do something with the office. So, worry less about what you want to be and worry more about what you want to do. Because those are two different things. I think one of the problems we get sometimes here in Washington is we have people, not everybody, and maybe not even the majority, but there are people here who they had in their mind very early on, I want to be a congressman. And then they're doing everything they can to be a congressman. And then once they become a congressman, they don't know why they're a congressman. All they know is they want to stay a congressman. And so, this is true not just in politics, I think this is true in business as well. The most successful business people I know, they don't start off saying, I want to be rich. What they say is, I want to invent the personal computer. And then it turns out, wow, Steve Jobs, or Hewlett and Packard, or Bill Gates, you guys did a really good job, and it just so happened that it made you really rich. But there was a passion about trying to get something done. It's certainly true in politics. So if you want to be in politics, my advice to you would be why? What is it that you want to do? Do you want to provide a good education to young people? Do you want to alleviate poverty? Do you want to make sure that everybody has health care? Do you want to promote peace between ethnic groups in your country? Do you want to preserve the environment? And whatever it is that you want to do, start doing it. Because you don't have to have an office to do that. You can start a program to help young women in your village get education. You can decide, in whatever part of Nigeria you're from, that you're going to go back and try to promote, health and wellness programs for young people. And the experience you get from actually doing these things then will inform the nature of why you might want to go into politics. First of all, it may turn out that you are making such a difference and having such an impact without going into politics that you decide, I don't want to do that, I want to keep on building what I'm doing. If you do decide to go into politics, you will have not only the experience, but also the credibility with the people you want to represent because they've seen you actually do something useful. And the last point I would make is, politics is a little bit like going into acting or being a musician. And what I mean by that is you can be really talented, but maybe the timing is off. Maybe you didn't get the lucky break. And so you can't guarantee that you're going to be elected or successful in a particular office. I mean, when you think about me being president of the United States, it was quite unlikely. And I still remember, I ran for the Senate, I won my primary, but I still had a general election, and then I was selected to speak at the Democratic National Convention. And this is in 2004. And the fact that John Kerry picked me to speak was sort of accidental. And I gave a pretty good speech. So the day after the speech, my name's everywhere, and I'm on television, and people are saying, wow, who's this guy Obama? And that was wonderful. We're really impressed, and he's got a future. Maybe someday he's going to run for president, etc. And I told my friend, because we were still in Boston and we're walking, there are these huge crowds, and everybody's wanting to shake my hand. I said, I'm no more smarter today than I was yesterday.